Hi Tea Australia, my name is Katie Nagar and I am a whiskey expert here to talk to you today about Talisker. Now, I always say that tasting whiskey is a multi-sensory experience. We're going to engage all five senses. First, taste with the eyes. So we're looking at that beautiful golden hue that's coming from our oak maturation. You also can tilt the glass and let it descend the legs. You'll see how it coats, and that gives us an indication of the texture of the whiskey before we've even tried it. Then we've got our sense of smell. Now, this is a spirit that's over 43%, so you don't want to get your nose in there and breathe too deeply, or else you're not going to be smelling much of anything. It can be quite intense and anesthetize your nose. So you want to bring the glass up to your nose, keep your mouth slightly ajar, and just breathe in gently. Why do we keep our mouth ajar? Because your sense of taste is interconnected with aroma. So 70 to 80% of flavor is aroma. Now for this Talisker, again, really beautiful kind of like seaweed salt spray, a little bit of malt sweetness, and definitely a hint of smoke. Now we've done sight, we've done aroma. We're then gonna engage our sense of taste. So we're gonna have a sip, let it roll across your palate for about 5 seconds. Usually go in for a second sip as well because you need to prime your palate. You want to be thinking not just of the flavor, we also want to think of our sense of touch, texture. Your tongue can actually detect mouthfeel or the texture of the whiskey. Now, a lot of times people choose to enjoy whiskey with food, and food pairing isn't necessarily as hard as you think. We like to think about what we call the 3 C's. So first is cut. That basically means you're going to want to have food that's quite rich, oftentimes fatty, because the spirit's going to help cut through the intensity and the richness of that food. That's why you think about things like cheese, cured meats, things that are quite rich. You also want to think about what we call complementary. So for instance, this Talisker has a beautiful smoky flavor to it. Tonight we're going to enjoy it with wood-fired food, so we're going to have that commonality of the smokiness. And then there's also what we call contrast. So sometimes you're going to accentuate flavors in the whiskey with something that's quite different. One of my favorite Talisker pairings is Talisker and oysters. So when you have the oyster, it's big, it's rich, it's like a salty umami bomb. And when you go back to the whiskey, all of a sudden, after having that saltiness, the whiskey tastes discernibly sweeter and more fruity. So it's a nice little contrasting kind of food pairing.